Hey, my reactors. So I'm on chapter 12, 7 years later. I came from a family of murderers forever. Girl, if I show up dead tomorrow, girl, if I show up dead tomorrow, rapping Randy did that shit. Fur yelled into her cell phone as she maneuvered down an icy DC street in the silver Benz Randy bought her last year. It's 7 years later, y'all. The snowstorm was unmerciful, and the window wipers did little to clear her view. Her eyes moved rapidly between the rear view mirror and the roads ahead as she struggled to get away from her crazed ex-boyfriend. Oh my God, he about to hit me again. Clank, clank. Randy's black Escalator hit the back of her Benz twice, causing the bumper to droop a little. Fur coughed, fishtailed, but she was able to regain control. I don't want to die, Coconut. He showed no signs of letting up anytime soon, and it was obvious that he either wanted her dead or at a massive standstill. When he was close enough, he hit her again, and the bumper hung off a little more. I'm scared. She wiped the snot and tears off her face with the back of her hand. He's going to finally do it. I should have left his ass alone when I had the chance. I thought you did. You know how crazy Randy is. That nigga not all together. Fur, Coconut screamed into the phone. She was saying the right shit in Fur's opinion. She needed encouragement, and Coconut failed miserably. And what happened to the restraining order you put on him? I don't know, bitch. Maybe he ate it, Fur said sarcastically. I just wish he'd leave me alone. I hadn't fucked him in like 6 months, she lied. Although she told her best friend one story, she knew the truth. She was nowhere near it. When she was with Randy, life was good. As long as he wasn't roughing her up in the bedroom. It was because of that reason that she dumped him 2 years ago. Before she ever dated Randy, Fur was starting to believe all her dreams were coming true. Coconut was officially her best friend, and she was well liked in school. The only thing missing in her life was the fact that the disease she hosted was still visible at times, and she didn't have in her life the strong, dark-skinned man who reminded her of Usher. So when Randy approached her at the club on her 18th birthday, while she was celebrating with her friends, she couldn't believe her luck. He was rich, powerful, and dark chocolate. All the things she wanted. Before long, Randy took her virginity, gave her everything she wanted in life. And then, when the time was right, showed her his darker side in the bedroom. Farrah quickly realized she couldn't handle it. After she left Randy, she wasn't single for long, because a few months later she ran into Zone Miller. He was a dark-skinned brother who had a passion for red bones with fat pink pussies and round asses. Farrah fit the bill perfectly. It didn't take him long to make her his wifey, to lace her up in the finest gear. Stuff was going great between Fur and Zone, and she didn't think life could get sweeter. Zone wasn't as demanding as Randy in the bedroom. He didn't need to beat her, choke her, or spit in her face to bust a nut. Instead, he spoiled her rotten, flaunted her around the city, and put her up in a platinum loft apartments, the flyest complex in her old stomping grounds. It was still smack dab in the middle of the hood, the place she lived all her life. DC was on the verge of rejuvenating projects, and if you didn't have the cash to support the move, you would get moved out. Every now and again, Randy would call when she was with Zone, but she never stepped outside of the relationship. Fur considered Randy a pest until Zone got locked up for being caught with a few ounces of cocaine. Suddenly, Randy calls weren't so worrisome anymore. She was willing to do anything to prevent moving back with Brownie, even if that meant giving Randy a little violet pussy from time to time. For the entire year while Zone was incarcerated, Randy laced her up and paid her rent. He would splurge and bought her a Benz, provided they could get down the way he liked it in the bedroom. Things went smooth until Zone was released from prison on an early release. Fur continued to fuck Randy on the low until Zone started hearing things in the neighborhood. He immediately checked the situation and demanded she straighten up or bounce. A few days ago, Fur decided to comply after she got one last payment from Randy. This time the money wasn't for designer shoes or purses. She was awful with money, but she had plans to use this cash for a purpose. She needed $1,600 to give Grand Mike, a holistic practitioner who could help her with her illness. She got the name from her cousin Cosmo, who was locked up for the multiple homicides. However, Grand Mike was strict with his schedule, saying, "You missed the appointment, you missed your chance." Tears rolled down her face as she tried to reach her destination without him telling her. Her nails dug into the steering wheel and she feared for her life. "Please don't kill me," she thought. "I don't want to die." "Where are you going anyway, Fur? I mean, maybe you should pull over and call the police." Fur was so delirious that she forgot Coconut was on the phone. "I can't do that," she screamed. "I got somewhere to be. I sure hope wherever you gotta be is worth dying for," Coconut said. "Because if it was me, I had that nigga locked up with the quickness. Bitch, you making shit worse. I'll call you back." Fur entered the call and threw her iPhone on the passenger seat. Their relationship had changed dramatically over the years because Fur was different. She was more outspoken and she formed a tougher layer inside and out. Her relationship with Brownie, after she smeared shit over her face and after learning the coach was her biological father, changed her for the worse. She started avoiding Brownie most times and Mia took over her motherly responsibilities. From the background, Elise would do the best she could to instill values in Fur. But as the years rolled by, she was so far gone that her grandma's words bored her to death. It was Mia who she looked up to, and it was also Mia who toughened her up. Fur was no longer afraid of fighting, although she preferred not to because it brought out emotions. Fur's motto was to keep your game face on and protect your feelings at all times. That way nobody could hurt you. That one trait made her appealing to people because she was aloof. Although she changed, two things remained the same. She was still obsessed with her looks, and she was still obsessed with Coconut friendship. When her phone rang, she looked at the passenger seat. Randy's name flashed on the screen. When she looked in the rearview mirror, he waved his phone, indicating he wanted her to answer. Hoping she could talk some sense into him, she picked up the phone and accepted the call. "Randy, why are you doing this to me?" Snot ran out her nose and entering her mouth. "You gonna kill me. You gotta keep it light and relaxed." Fur had stolen Coconut quote and virtually ran it into the ground by using it every day. She said it so much that Coconut now hated the phrase. Real calmly, he said, "You think you could take my money and blow me off like I'm some bimbo-ass nigga bitch? I will kill you first." His words caused her head to throb and she could feel an outbreak coming on. Fur threw the phone on the seat again and focused back on the road. Randy was uncompromising. She looked down in her lap and picked up a small piece of white paper. Holding a note in her hand, she examined the address upon it. It was of the man who could save her life. If only she could get rid of her ex-boyfriend, things would be okay. Spotting a police officer who was giving a ticket to a man in a green Ford Expedition, she pulled over and parked behind him. Randy, seeing this, crept slowly past her and gave her an evil look. From her frost window, she could see him mouth, "It ain't over, bitch," right before he sped out of sight. He hated cops and she was counting on it. When she felt Randy was far enough away, she stood a few moments to catch her breath before pulling back into traffic. 15 minutes later, she was in front of a dilapidated brick building. Her temples throbbed terribly and her stomach churned. Gas escaped her body, spraying and sent a rotten eggs throughout the car. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. Parked, she looked at the paper. in her hand again before her eyes rolled over the rundown drawing. She couldn't imagine anything of value being inside, but this was her last hope. Before getting out and battling when the storm, she zipped her black leather jacket and adjusted the rear view mirror to look at herself. Although makeup hid most of the scars on her face from a recent outbreak she endured, it wasn't good enough. Her light complexion would only get worse if something didn't give. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed her phone and stuck it in her jacket pocket. Then she snatched her large brown Gucci purse out of the back seat and placed her hand on the door handle. Before getting out, she checked her surroundings to be sure Randy wasn't lingering around, because the last thing she needed was him running up on her. When she was sure the coast was clear, she moved towards the building, and her black Ugg boots trod through the 6 inches of recently fallen snow. Once at the building, she pulled on the door's cold handle, but it wouldn't open. Her brown eyes pierced through the wire window, looking for anyone. It was dark inside, and she wondered if she was at the right place. She checked the address, stepped back, and looked up at the numbers on the building. They matched. Thinking she didn't use enough force, she pulled the door handle again, and it didn't open. She was carrying $1,600 that belongs to him, provided he was able to give her the help she needed. She was so desperate to look normal that she was willing to part with such a large sum of cash without having seen any results. Her beauty was more important to her than air filling her lungs. This illness was inconvenient and extremely painful, and she would give anything to be done with it altogether. Bang, 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 she knocked heavily at the locked door. Bang, bang, bang. Let me in, she screamed. Open this fucking door. She pulled on the handle again, and although the door rattled loudly, it wouldn't budge. The temperature was well below 20 degrees, yet the makeup on her face began to strip from sweat pouring off her forehead. It tickled her skin, causing her to wipe it away along with some of her makeup. It was her last hope. He was her last hope. She seen what the illness did to her mother and how it made her look like a monster, forcing her to live miserably and alone. Dr. Martin promised that if she followed his orders, her condition would be better. But nothing he did seemed to work. He was a liar, and she was tired of hearing his fucking mouth. At the rate her illness was progressing, it would eat at her face so much that after a while she would be able to do nothing but play a role in a horror film. Crying heavily, she turned around and her back fell against the metal door before the seat of her True Religion jeans slapped against the icy wet step. When her phone rang, it startled her and she pulled it out of her jacket pocket. It was Chloe. Fur reluctantly answered, "Yes, Chloe. When are you coming home? I wanted to come over so I can borrow your pink shoes." "Girl, I'm busy right now. Plus it's snowing and I'm outside. I don't want my phone to get wet." "Ugh, I hate when you are like a bitch." Chloe hung up. Fur wiped the wetness of her phone and tucked it back inside her leather jacket. Tears fell from her eyes and snowflakes fell onto her face before melting against her warm skin. All was lost, and she resigned to the fact that she may end up like her mother, partially confined to bed and lonely. She was just about to stand up and go home when a black man in a wheelchair opened the door, causing her body to fall inside. His face was dark and ashy, and he didn't have any teeth in his mouth. The hair on his head was thick and woolly, and pieces of lint were littered throughout it. "Was that you banging on the door like you lost your mind?" Fur jumped up, brushed the snow off the back of her wet jeans and smiled. "Yes, I'm sorry, but I'm here to see." She searched for the piece of paper with the address, which she slept with for 2 days in a row. When she spotted it on the wet ground, she picked it up and tried to read the blue ink, which was now smeared. It wasn't like she didn't know his name. She remembered it along with the address, although at the moment her memory escaped her. Grand Mike, that's his name. Do you know him?" "I know him. The name's Dexter," he responded as if asking, "You got his money?" She She dug in her purse and pulled out a white bank envelope. It's right here. Her fingers trembled and the cash almost filled out from her hands. Give it to me, he reached over for the envelope. She snatched it back. If you don't mind, I really like to see him first. He rolled his eyes. Well, come in. I ain't got all fucking day. She was just about to put one foot over the threshold when she spotted roaches crawling all over the hallway floor and walls. Bugs of any kind repulsed her so much that she would often have panic attacks that would result in an outbreak. Since she wasn't behind him, he turned his wheelchair around and faced her. Are you coming on or not? Huh? Her eyes looked at his and then the bugs moving around as if they ran the place. What you say? Insensitive about the fear in her eyes, he gave it to her straight. Look, you already late. Don't take up more of my time with your shit. Now what you gonna do? But I'm scared, she pointed at the wall. I never seen so many. Leave now, he interrupted her before he rolled towards the elevator. Wait, she saw. I'm coming. Fur walked in slowly and a bug fell off the ceiling into the floor in her pathway. Ugh! She screamed, jumping around, shaking her head, and tugging at her clothes. Did it fall on me? Dexter shook his head, laughed, and hit the button for the elevator. When it dinged and opened, Fur dodged inside and waited impatient for the doors to close. When the elevator's door shut, he looked up at her and said, You must not be from D.C. I am, she said, and I ain't never seen no shit like this before. She looked around the elevator, which seemed like less harmful than the hallway. He laughed. You don't know. They more afraid of us than we are of them, don't you? When the elevator dinged and opened on the second floor, every muscle in her body tensed as she prayed a bug wouldn't fall on her. So many roaches crawled around the floor that they looked like patterns against the gray tiles. Spiders in their silky webs hung in the corners of the ceilings, and chips of brown paint barely hung to the wall. When he rolled out the elevator, she ran behind him, and the bugs crunched under her feet like potato chips. When they approached apartment 216, her heart thumped in her chest as she hoped Grand Mike would open the door before she panicked and passed out. Instead of knocking, Dexter removed a gold key from his funky brown boot and opened the door to an apartment so gruesome and solid that she was starting to believe that the holistic practitioner couldn't possibly live here. Still, she followed him inside. Wait over there, Dexter pointed. Dexter said, pointing at the area not too far from the door. I'll go get him. The door slammed behind her and she examined it, wondering if she could leave if she desired. Her eyes roamed over a red couch with dirt on the armrest and a blue rug with so many stains on it that it resembled unorganized leopard spots. 15 minutes later, a tall, dark-skinned black man exited a room and walked slowly towards her. He was wearing a white t-shirt and his ashy elbows looked like someone had rubbed chalk on them, like the tip of a pool stick. Are you Farrah Carton? He asked. She noticed that just like Dexter, he didn't have any teeth, and she figured they must be crackheads. She doubted his skills seriously at this point and would have run back out of the door if her cousin didn't swear that he had what she needed. Yeah, I'm for her. I see your face is bad. You had an outbreak recently. Yes, she swallowed, a few days ago. So you really need me, don't you? She placed her hand softly on her cheek, realizing the makeup must be coming off. Yes, I do. Well, you come to the right place. Next time, be on time. Every second of my life is precious, and I waste it for no one. He said, examining the authentic silver Rolex watch on his arm. Not even you. I'm sorry she felt awkward, but you wouldn't believe what I went through to get here. I came as fast as I could. You got my shit? Yes. Fur embedded the clumsy form in her throat. The clumsy film that formed in her throat. He held out his hand. Give it to me. She gave him the money and he counted in front of her. When he reached the last bill, he smiled slyly. Looked up at her and said, "It's all here. Make yourself comfortable." "Yeah, right." He pointed at the sofa over there. First slogged towards the dirty couch and her body sank into the cushion. It was in bad condition and she wanted to stand, but was too scared to move. Roaches crawled around her wet Ugg boots and she cringed. "Please, God, please don't let them crawl on me." She stomped her feet a few quick times, and they scurried away, out of her way. The filthiness of his place was killing her. Brian Mike moved towards a room on the opposite end of the door he exited, and Dexter rolled back into the living room and smiled at her. His grin was out of place, considering he cursed her just minutes earlier. When Grand Mike knocked on another door within the apartment, a white woman opened it. Within the apartment, a white woman opened it. She had a pair of Tony the Tiger scrubs, and she smiled awkwardly at Fur. Not knowing what else to do, Fur smiled back. When the door opened wide, she saw a young black girl sitting on a hospital bed. She seemed zoomed out and high, and Fur wondered if she had the same illness. Grand Mike walked inside the room and closed the door behind him. What the fuck is going on, she thought. Who are these people really? 20 minutes later, Grand Mike reappeared with a white cooler in his hand. "This is enough for a 6-month supply." Fur stood up and walked towards him. "Contact me in a month before you run out, because I have to prepare what you need in advance." "What is it?" One of his eyebrows raised. "What exactly are you asking me?" "I mean, I'm asking what you giving me. Something to clear up your complexion and keep your disease at bay. Ain't that what you came to?" "Yes." "Okay then." He had a toothless grin. "And don't bother telling your doctors about this, because he'll tell you it won't work. And if I find out you told him anything about me, I may be liable to come looking for you. You understand what I'm saying?" He handed her the cooler. "Take it once a day by mouth." He looked at Dexter, who rolled up next to them. "If you come here and I'm not available, Dexter here can help you." She looked down at him. "You'll have to get some dry ice to keep it cold, and it has to remain chilled." He handed her a card. "You can buy your dry ice from this place because it's hard to find. Any questions?" She tucked the card in her purse. "Does this really work?" He laughed, revealing his toothless grin once more. "If you believe in it, it will." She didn't understand why he was being so secretive. If her cousin hadn't told her about his service, she wouldn't be standing in front of him. So somebody had to tell her something. Although her illness was rare, it wasn't illegal. So what? She decided to go through unconventional means to get help. Her doctor medicine orders were not working. She had to do what was best for her, and she hoped it will work. Ooh, y'all, this chapter is long. Okay. Fur rushed through the hallway of the Platinum Loaf apartments. Her icy cold hands carrying the cooler tightly for fear it would fall and break. Finally, after so many years, she had an answer to the rare disease, porpia, she said. "I won't have to worry about you for much longer." Her heart was filled with hope and excitement, and that alone was worth the money. Holding the cooler in her left hand, she rustled through her purse for the keys to her apartment. Tonight would be special now that she was in a pleasant mood. If Zone wanted, Fur was going to allow him to stick his dick in every hole in her body. When he was done, she would prepare baked chicken, cheddar cheese, spinach, and butter rice, just the way he liked it. Locating the key, she placed it in the keyhole and turned the knob. A smile spread across her face as she searched for her man inside their lavish apartment. When she spotted him sitting across the room at the computer, she felt warm and tingling inside. That was until she was dumbstruck as she witnessed him in a world of his own. His back faced her direction, but she saw the pinkness of a woman's slit vagina and AC on the computer screen. Her fingers went in and out of her pussy, and she cooed and moaned. Zone responded to the cyber show he was receiving by beating his stiff penis. She walked into the apartment and the door closed softly behind her as she placed the cooler against the wall. Open your legs wider, Zone instructed, and put all fingers in your pussy at one time. Whatever you want, the voice said, coming from the speakers. The girl chocolate legs widened, which exposed more of her fleshy moan. Zone stroked himself harder, and he was on the verge of coming until he sensed he wasn't alone. Jumping up, he stuffed his penis back in his boxes and pulled his blue jeans up from the floor. Running his hands through his black curly hair, he searched for a reasonable explanation. After all, they'd been together for years and she was helping support them. Sure, she cheated on Zone by fucking Randy for some dough, but it wasn't like the dude had concrete proof. Rumors loomed in the hood every day. Baby, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were home, he said, moving in her direction. Her eyes were glued to the screen and she noticed something that caused her heart to ache. There on the woman's inner thigh was a diamond ring tattooed that read, a guy's best friend. The thigh belongs to her 19-year-old sister, Chloe. Was this the reason that bitch wanted to know when I was coming home? Zone, where you at? Chloe asked. Her pretty, deep chocolate face finally came into the view on the screen. I can't see you. Step back in front of the camera, Chloe scorned, until she saw her sister. Oh my God, Fur, I'm so... Hearing her voice, Fur immediately ran up to the computer and turned off the screen. Tears rolled down her face and she looked at him, hoping he gave her answers. It was the first time she showed emotion to a man, and as far as she was concerned, it would be her last. Although she was devastated, it was mainly because of Chloe's portrayal. They were sisters and she loved her very much. Zone wasn't the first person Chloe went at who belongs to her. And in Farrah's opinion, the treachery started with Theo. She focused on his beautiful dark skin, low right eye, and lip that were black from years of weed smoking. He wasn't perfect by any means or the man in the stories, but she was starting to care for him. With a little time and a lot of money, she could even see herself falling for Zone. She always favored the underdog, and any man who made it come up because she was in his life was bound to appreciate her even more. I ain't fucking with her no more, baby. He walked up to her and massaged her shoulders. That shit didn't mean nothing to me. You know how freaky your baby sister is. We had to bet she wouldn't do no shit like that, and she did. She won, babes, he laughed. Now I owe her $50. $50? Her tone was flat. He made an unexpected cranky grin. It was just a joke, I promise. He was lying and she knew it. She remembered the day Chloe walked out of their bathroom after taking a shower with water drops beating all over her chocolate skin. Lust was in his eyes that night, and she knew having her around and in her home was risky for their relationship. Chloe was everything Fur wasn't, dark-skinned and freaked out. Talk to me, Fur, Zone said. His eyes moved over her face, arms, and legs, and it was clear he was trying to read her. The silence poked at her guilt and caused his jaws to flex. Every time we get into a fight, you space the fuck out. He stepped away from her as he flipped the tables around on her so hard. Fur didn't know what was happening. Bitch, are you listening to me? Are you even here? Zone was livid at the cool way in which she handled the matter, partly because he was guilty and also because if she didn't lash out, he felt she didn't love him. Fur always acted like this whenever they got into a fight, so nothing was new. Oftentimes he'd go outside and punch at the impenetrable wall in the hallway until his hands were full. The only time he saw Fur emotional was when she was beefing with Coconut. The only time you act when that bitch is involved, you sure you ain't fucking Coconut? When she heard his words, she clapped her eyelids together a few times, looked at the floor, and then back at him. She didn't want to respond to such a ridiculous accusation. Although she was obsessed with her friendship, she didn't want to be with a woman exclusively. The mere idea repulsed her, and she knew he knew that. You want something to eat? She cupped her palms together. I can fry you some chicken. Maybe make some of that brown rice you like after I shower. Fur acted as if nothing happened and already knew she was on to the next thing. Besides, being with Ozone was not an option at the moment. She lived with him, and although she'd been footing some of the bills with the help of her blackmail money she took from her mother to keep the secret she learned about Coach Jaffrey and the cash Randy gave her to dip into her pussy every now and again, it was still in his place, and she didn't want to go back home. You just walk in on some amazing fucking shit, and that's all you got to say? You're hungry, aren't you? She smiled, ignoring his question. I can't wait to take my shower. She walked around him. Let me cook your food first. She kicked her shoes off, grabbed the cooler by the door, and walked into the spacious, upscale kitchen. She placed the cooler on the counter and opened the fridge to grab thawed chicken breast. Not bothering to wash her dirty hands, she took the meat out of her package and seasoned them the way Zone liked it, minus the dirt from under her fingernails. He was so shocked by her actions that he stood in her presence motionless. When the image of Chloe waiting vagina danced around in her mind, she said, "Baby, you mind turning on the music?" Fur, you not going to say nothing about the shit you just saw? He walked towards the kitchen. Nothing at all. What you want me to say? She said as her dirty fingernails dug into the meat while she massaged in the seasoning. You said it was a joke, so it's a joke. So it was a joke. She shrugged. I'm not going to let that shit take any more of my time than it already has. So you don't care that it was Chloe? It's not a big deal. Thinking she was tripping because she was still fucking Randy, he asked, where were you? Ferg was quiet. Zone had been with her all this time, and she never told him about the illness she was born with, for fear it might turn him off. I had to meet a friend. She flipped the chicken on the outside and seasoned it some more. I would have been here sooner, but there was an accident on the beltway. She lied as she appraised him with narrow eyes to see if he believed her. Maybe I'll make you lemon drops too. You really love that drink the girl Angel makes at the bar. She put the chicken in the pan. If I go to the store now, I can catch them before they close to get some fresh lemon. She remembered her bumper was about to fall over and said, or maybe I can ask our neighbors if they have any. You don't even fucking talk to our neighbors. There was a first time for everything, she smiled. You really don't give a fuck, do you? Her mind races to try to understand what he wanted from her. Essentially, she was accusing his trifling ass behavior by acting as if nothing happened. Yet, he was unsatisfied. She learned a long time ago to toughen up. After hearing it over and over from her family, emotions would be wasted on this situation because what was done was done. And at the end of the day, she didn't like what she saw, but she wasn't going to leave him either. He was her escape now, and until she came up with another plan, he would have to do. Fur, I'm not fucking around with you. We gotta talk about this shit. I almost finished, y'all, with this chapter. You want sex? I can suck your dick. Would you like that? She walked towards him. I saw how hard you were when I first walked in. That's what you want, ain't it? He stared at her like she was crazy, because at that moment she was. You know what? I'm so sick of this weak shit. What do you want me to say, Zone? That I walked in on you beating your dick to my sister wet pussy and my feelings are hurt? That's a start. Well, it did hurt. But I'm not going to leave you. Anyway, you like red bitches, she giggled. That's one of the first things you told me when we first met. So my sister's too black anyway. You tell me that all the time, she smirked. What you want to do? Try something new so you can get it out your system? Is that it? She walked closer to him. We've been together for years. Maybe you want to try dark meat. It's not a big deal. My grandma told my mom, every now and again a man likes something different. If you want, I can call her over so you can fuck her. I know she wants you, so we can get that shit out the way. Just don't ask me to do it again when it's over. Joan took a step back and said, I'm done. He moved towards the computer to grab his keys and stuffed his wallet in his front pocket. Through the large window, she could see the snow coming down heavier. When I get back, I want you out my crib. But my name is on the lease. You can't throw me out. Nah, he chuckled. You signed the lease with me. Mom, but you never, you signed a lease with me, Mom. But you're not on my lease. I just did that shit so you could keep the apartment while I was locked up. Our arrangement aspire, expires next month. So instead of wasting my time, I want you to pack your shit and be out tomorrow. So you want to be with my sister now? Is that it? Fuck no. It ain't even about that. It's about you and me not vibing. He looked at her seriously. You've been different since I've been home from jail. I'm hearing shit that I don't like about you fucking Randy. That's probably the reason I can't get put on and make no paper in these streets. The nigga run half of DC. So like I said, pack your shit and kick rocks. Zone, I'm not mad at you. It's okay. Why don't you want to fight? Why don't you want to fight for me? She was silent as always and he laughed. I know what it is. You so used to niggas sweating you because you red. Guess what? I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. He stepped closer. If you really want to know the truth, your pussy some trash anyway. She laughed, not believing him. Nah, I'm being straight up. You can't fuck. If you don't believe me, ask the nigga Randy. I'm sure he'll keep it 100 with you. Since he lacing you up, he moved towards the closet, grabbed his brown leather coat, and eased it on. Like I said, I want you out. I'm tired of your hair being all over my crib anyway. Where am I going to go? Move back with your mama. It ain't my problem. I don't deserve this shit. She put her hands over her heart. This the least you could do is tell me how you want me to be. I wanted you to be strong. Wanted you to want this relationship, but you can't do that, can you? Because you don't give a fuck. He walked past her to grab a beer out of the fridge before moving towards the door again. Who else but a bitch who don't care can walk in on something like that and not say shit? She stood in place and looked at him. Her heart told her he was picking a fight to flip shit on her. But what could she do? If she had another place to stay, she might have told him where to go and how to get there. But that was not the case. Zone twisted a nod to the front door, preparing to walk out when first started talking. I come from a family I come from a family of murderers. I never gave you my life story because I knew my last name was enough. Plus, I didn't think you would deal with me if you knew the whole truth. He closed the door, turned around, and looked at her. My father is in jail for killing a family, all because his son scratched the paint on his car. Tears rolled out her eyes heavily, but she was laughing. My mother had us fighting her people just because she liked to see them crying sometimes. She looked into the distance. We either killed. She focused back on him. I don't want to be that person anymore, Zone. I don't want to be the person I know I can be. So I let shit slide. That's why I don't argue with you a lot or pick fights. I know I can't win. But it don't mean I don't want to be with you. Her hands dropped to her side. And it don't mean you can't. You can leave me right now. I need you. She walked up to him. You're all I got. Her lips curled into a silly smile. So put your keys down because you're not going anywhere. Okay? Right now you need me? He laughed. What happens when the next nigga with more money comes along? What? You won't need me anymore then, right? She was no longer thinking straight. So the truth flew out her mouth faster than a bullet. When the next nigga with more money come along, then I'm gone, she said flatly. But let's cross that block when we get there. He walked over to the window, activated the automatic start on his BMW and faced her. Like I said, I want you out. I want you out. The snow was coming down so hard it sounded as if sand were being thrown against the large pane windows. He looked at her face and she didn't appear to be listening. You heard me, bitch? Get your shit and get the fuck out by tomorrow. She heard him that time. When she looked at his face, she saw the seriousness in his eyes. It was over and she felt it. She felt it. The bottom of her feet was sweaty and her palms were soaked with preparation. She was trying to push the anger down deep and let his rejection pass, but she couldn't. Who was he to dump her when he was in the wrong? As if as someone threw down a red flag at a car race. Her, her toes dug into the cream carpet fiber, and she charged towards him full speed ahead. Running into track, running indoor track throughout high school made her quick and fast. She ran so fast that the baby toe on her right foot cracked and broke. God damn. But pain was non-existent for the moment. When she reached him, both of her hands forcefully touched his chest. With extreme exertion, she pushed him towards the window and watched his fracture. Watch it fracture as his body pressed against the glass. Small shadow covered his hair and face as he tumbled backwards. He tried to reach out and stop his fall by gripping the air, but it wasn't working. His body twirled and whirled 13 feet to his death. He died instantly. With the window destroyed, the cold air rushed into the apartment, and Farah rubbed her arms rapidly with warmth. Walking up the window, her feet pressed against the broken glass as she looked around until she saw him. There his body lay against the snow with his eyes wide open. Seconds later, the snow turned red as blood and life escaped him. I will be back. That was a long chapter. Ooh. I will be back with chapter 13. 1 month later, dumbness, you will fuck anybody. You don't give a fuck what they look like forever. Okay, y'all. Bye, my reactors. I hope y'all enjoying the book.